What's up and welcome to Me, You, and Switch 2. I am me, Tom Tate, and you are you, so let's talk about Switch 2. This is the latest and greatest Nintendo Switch 2 news brought to you every Tuesday and Friday in snackable 5 to 10 minute episodes. Today happens to be Tuesday, June 16th. It is 8:02 a.m. on the East Coast. This is episode 109. I hope that you had an awesome weekend. Now, I did get some gaming time in this weekend. It doesn't happen every weekend, right? So whenever I get it, I'm appreciative. I managed to finish Mina the Hollower. This was an amazing game. I think my game clock was probably at like 12 to 14 hours. I'm posting my thoughts on this game and the game mixtape in a bonus audio episode over on the Patreon feed. I should have that out in the next day or two. That's patreon.com/switch2pod. That's switch with the number 2 pod. But the TLDR is that Yacht Club Games, they did the Shovel Knight games. They built an amazing game with modifications actually like built into the game. So you can dial up or dial down whatever you love or don't love about Mina the Hollower. So you could turn the difficulty down a ton and just play this kind of like a top-down Zelda-like. Or if you want the challenge, you can add a bunch of modifiers to make it harder. And you don't have to commit to your mods. You can play around throughout the entire experience. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. I think if I played through it without touching that at all, I would still be playing it, A, and B, I probably wouldn't be super satisfied. But it was only $20 also, which was super nice on the wallet. So I give my official endorsement for Mina the Hollower if you're looking for a cheapish game to play. It is going to be a light news day today. That's why there's a little bit of banter at the top half. Not a lot to cover. If you haven't been hanging out with us over the past few weeks, we're hot off of Summer Game Fest and a big Nintendo Direct, which happened 1 week ago from today. So we don't really have a ton of news. Level Up Analytics claimed that the Nintendo Direct was the most watched show of Summer Game Fest, peaking at 3.8 million viewers. The Summer Game Fest opening night showcase peaked at 3.7 million. Sony's State of Play peaked at 2.9 million, and Xbox was at 2.2 million. So if you're ranking just eyeballs, it seems to be Nintendo was the clear winner there. One of the most watched pieces of media was the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake trailer. It was more of a teaser. Everyone is speculating as to what extent this will be a straight remake with the gameplay and elements of the game mostly unchanged, or if it'll be kind of a reimagining of the game, similar to the Final Fantasy VII remakes and a few other games that we've seen recently. Some internet sleuths found this line in the source code of a listing for the game. The N64 Classic Reborn as a full remake for Nintendo Switch 2. Experience Ocarina of Time with stunning visuals, updated designs, and timeless gameplay. Nintendo has since removed that description from the code. Honestly, Nintendo is typically very safe in this regard. So anything other than a one-to-one remake is just kind of a hope and a dream, in my opinion. And I'm the first to advocate for that reimagining. I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. The Resident Evil kind of reimaginings are fantastic. With Star Fox being very one-to-one, minus some expanded cutscenes and quality of life changes. Let's see, we had Link's Awakening, right? We had Mario RPG on Switch. They were very one-to-one. Skyward Sword HD, which wasn't really marketed as a remake, but that was one-to-one, of course. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, smaller games like that, one-to-one. So as far as I remember, all of these were, these faithful remakes with very little creative license. Maybe they'll add just a few things here and there. There was that dungeon builder in Link's Awakening. So we'll have to wait and see. I think the only way this game becomes something else, some other, bigger reimagining, is if it's actually developed by Nintendo EPD, perhaps with some help from Monolith Soft. They worked on, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And maybe they're doing it to officially set the tone on kind of where Zelda will go next. But other than that, this might have likely gone to the studio Grezzo. And Grezzo did the Link's Awakening remake. They did Echoes of Wisdom. But then going back in their catalog, I see that they also did Ocarina of Time 3D back in 2011 and Majora's Mask 3D in 2015. So they know these games inside and out. So we'll see. If I was a betting man, I would say that it's probably a Grezzo or a studio like Grezzo working on this game, while Nintendo EPD works on whatever the next Zelda will be. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll find out soon. Another game that got a lot of attention was Final Fantasy Resonance. IGN has a great interview with producer Keisuke Nakashima and director Hiroto Furuya. I'll drop that in the show notes if you want to check that out. If you are a fan of traditional turn-based Final Fantasy games, this interview will definitely get you hyped. They share their love of growing up with Final Fantasy 4 and 5 and 6. They reveal a bit about their approach to the game, how it differs from the mobile game adaptation. It's adapting Brave Exvius, if you didn't catch that note last week. They talk about the state of turn-based RPGs. I'll link to that in the show notes as well if you want to read that. In other news, Otaklick Game Studio and Trailmark Games announced The Walking Dead Streets of Survival. This will be a 2D beat-em-up coming to Switch 1 and Switch 2. Otaklick has developed a Karate Kid beat-em-up in the past, so this isn't their first rodeo with that genre. Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered is coming to Switch 2. That isn't new news. We knew that it was planned to arrive sometime in 2026, but a definitive edition showed up in the ESRB ratings directory. So perhaps the release is more imminent than we thought. I sunk 30 hours into this one last year and probably 10 times as many hours when the game was first released back on Xbox way back in the day. And then last but not least, this isn't really news, but I caught this post on Reddit. We are currently in the longest gap ever between brand new 3D Mario titles. So Mario Odyssey is currently 9 years old, heading towards 10. So speculation is growing that a new Mario game is around the corner. But if you think about it, like the team that did Donkey Kong Bonanza was mostly, as far as I know, the Mario Odyssey team. So it's not like they haven't been working on anything or they've just been working on Mario for 10 years. They've worked on other things since then. So we'll have to wait and see on that one as well, too. But just hearing that, reading that headline just made me feel really old, knowing that Mario Odyssey is heading towards 10 years old. All right, that's it for today. I hope that you have a fantastic week. I will be back on Friday. I want to thank you so much for your time and your attention. A kind rating or review really helps me continue to grow the show. It helps other people find and discover the show, which is really important. It takes just a few seconds. You don't even have to write anything. You can just leave a quick 4 or 5 star review. Would be very appreciative on your podcast listening app of choice. If you do leave a review, I'd be happy to read that on the air too. Haven't done that in a bit, but always happy to do it. You can catch me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Switch2Pod. That's Switch with the number 2Pod. You can go to switch2pod.com for all the things, all the subscription links. All right, I'm off for another work day. You know, my kids are home from school now, so they go to the pool during the day, and I just sit at home in the basement on the computer, and I'm just jealous. I wish I could join them at the pool, or I wish I could just log off and play video games. But I've got work to do. So I will be back on Friday. Much love. Now go play some games.